So the items that you're probably going to need for this project are wire cutters, plastic cutters, or any kind of strong scissor, a thermoplastic, a wire, some cheap heels from the thrift store, E6000, duct tape for a little extra hold, and a black stretch fabric. I saw that quite a few people used foam for the toe curl. I felt that foam wouldn't be strong enough for me. I bump into things all the time. I step on my own feet. It's a nightmare. So I needed something sturdier than just foam, which I was convinced would break. So what I ended up using was a combination of wire and Wonderflex. Alright, so the first thing that I did was I took the wire and I cut it to the size that I thought I would need, and I cut 2 pieces of that. So the way to figure out how much wire you need for each toe curl is pretty simple. You'll place the end of the measuring tape at about the ball of your foot, and then you'll curve the measuring tape into the shape of the toe curl, and then you'll take that measurement, double it, and add a few inches for excess. The excess inches will be used both at the tip of the curl and at the base of the curl, where it meets the shoe. This is just for extra leeway in case there was a mistake in measuring, and also it allows for the tip of the curl to be rounded off instead of at a point. After you cut out the 2 pieces of wire, you're going to shape them both into the curl. In order to attach the wire to the shoe, first add E6000 to the part of the shoe where the leathery part of the shoe or whatever the shoe's made of, like the base of the shoe, meets the sole. And then you're going to take the wire and affix it to that spot, and you're going to hold it in place with just some regular like Scotch tape or whatever. Later on, I ended up adding black duct tape on top of the Scotch tape and the wire just because I was concerned that it wouldn't hold very well when I was stepping. I just didn't want it to pop off at all, so the duct tape was just an extra security blanket there. Before curling your wire, what you're going to do is lay it down on your thermoplastic or whatever else you're using. Then you're just going to trace around the wire to make your little thermoplastic pattern, and then cut around it with some seam allowance. So then you're going to take your plastic strip and then heat it up. I probably heat mine up more than needed, but either way, as long as it's malleable, you're good. And then you're going to take your thermoplastic and form it over the wire frame the best you can. Obviously, this is going to be covered in fabric later, so the final result of the thermoplastic doesn't exactly need to be perfect, but you probably don't want huge divots in it either. To secure the thermoplastic on the wire frame, all I did was fold the seam allowance over the wire and press it into the thermoplastic itself. Once you reach the toe of the shoe, you just kind of like cut the excess off. This next part is ridiculously tedious. What you end up doing is pinning your leg between 2 pieces of fabric, which absolutely sucks. Once you pin the fabric together, you're going to take a marker and you're just going to draw along the pins on both sides of your leg. This line will guide your stitching. I guess it's not completely necessary if you're able to keep all the pins in place, but I just like to have it as an extra guide so I know for sure that I'm sewing over the right spot. Obviously, you don't want to have to make more work for yourself, so do your best to remove the boot cover without disturbing most of the pins. Alright, so after all of that torture, now it's the easy part. You go over to your machine and you sew your life away. I can't remember if I ended up using a straight stitch for this or a tricot stitch. Either one would probably work just fine. I'd say that both would probably be fine since it's just the vertical part of the boot and there's not much stretch needed vertically. However, when you get to the top of the boot and you fold it over for the hem, I would use a tricot stitch there. Alright, and you're almost done sewing. So what I ended up doing was I put the boots on and I cut off the excess seam allowance. And for the bottom of the shoes, just pin it down, make your mark again, and then sew it closed. Easy as that. Then you just slip your shoe back inside of the boot cover and you're good to go. A good idea to keep the boots up would be to wear dancing tights and stitch the top of the boot to the tights themselves. Then the boots cannot fall down or slip or whatever. I am too lazy to do that, so I end up just wearing the boots over tights and kind of just pulling them up here and there. The tights underneath do cause enough friction to kind of like keep the boots up enough, but they will slip down if you don't sew them to the tights directly.